Hola clase. Today we're going to talk about the verb tener. So make sure that you have your tener note guide and that you're filling it out and going through it as we talk about the PowerPoint. Okay, so for part A on your note guide, it says to fill in the blanks according to the information in the video. It wants us first to write what the verb tener means in English. It tells us on the PowerPoint to use the verb tener to talk about what people have or possession. So the verb tener means to have. So let's fill that out on the note guide. Tener means to have. Okay, the next part says to write what conjugation means. Okay, below on the PowerPoint it says, remember, you need to conjugate verbs or change them when you want to create sentences. This word conjugation means changing a verb to match a subject. So pause the video and fill in the definition of part A on your note guide. Okay, so it asks us on the note guide to write the correct forms of tener next to each subject in the chart and what it means in English. So let me go through the chart with you first, and then I'll have you pause the video and fill in part B. Okay, so the first one says yo tengo. Tengo is the yo form of the verb tener. We've conjugated it, changed it to tengo, and if you say yo tengo, that means I have. The next one, tú tienes. Tienes is the conjugated form of the verb tener. Tú tienes means you have. Usted tiene means you have as well, but remember usted is formal, and tiene is a conjugated form of tener for usted. Notice that if you want to say he has or she has, it's the same form as usted. So usted tiene, you have. Él tiene, he has. Ella tiene, she has. Okay, on the plural side, nosotros tenemos means we have, and remember if it's all girls, nosotras tenemos, we have. Ustedes tienen, you all have. Ellos tienen, they have, and ellas tienen, they have. Let's go through and say these forms together, okay? Say them with me. Yo tengo, tú tienes, usted tiene, él tiene, ella tiene, nosotros tenemos, nosotras tenemos, ustedes tienen, ellos tienen, ellas tienen. Okay, pause the video at this time and fill in the chart. Notice it wants you to put the form of tener, which is blue, on the PowerPoint, and it also wants you to put the translation in English on the second half of the chart. Okay, pause the video. Okay, here are some example sentences with different forms of the verb tener. Okay, because you wouldn't want to say, for example, I to have many friends, right? You have to change your verb. You have to make it, instead of say to have, you have to make it say I have. So the first example, yo tengo muchos amigos. We see yo, so we know the form of tener we need is tengo, and that means I have many friends. Okay. Second one says ellas tienen clases muy buenas, which means they have very good classes. Okay. Tienen is the ellas form of tener. The next one, mi amiga tiene unos libros interesantes. Mi amiga is like saying she, and we know she in Spanish is ella, so we must use the form of tener that matches ella. In this case, it's tiene. Okay, the next one, ¿tienes tú una bicicleta? Do you have a bike? Okay, notice that the tú comes after the verb. So when you're asking a question, you want to put the subject pronoun after the verb instead of before. Okay, so tienes is the tú form of tener. And finally, nosotros tenemos clases importantes en la escuela. We have important classes at school. Okay, and tenemos is the nosotros form of tener. Okay, practiquemos. Let's practice. It asks us to fill in the blank with the correct form of tener. So we're going to do the first one together, and then I'll have you pause, and you'll fill out the rest, and we'll go through them together. Okay? All right, so the first one is a question. So notice that our subject pronoun comes after the blank. We see that it's tú. So we want to use our chart. Find the tú form of the verb tener. We see that it's tienes. Therefore, ¿tienes tú agua? Do you have water? All right, pause the video and do 2 through 5. Okay, número 2. Yo tengo la clase de español. We chose tengo because that's the yo form of tener. 3. Nosotros tenemos clase en 5 minutos. We have class in 5 minutes. We chose tenemos because that is the nosotros form of tener. 4. Juanita tiene mucha tarea. We chose tiene because Juanita is a girl. It's like saying she. So ella tiene. Juanita has a lot of homework. Y número 5. Las chicas tienen los libros. Las chicas is like saying they. We know they, if it's all girls, is ellas. And tienen is the ellas form of the verb tener. The girls have the books. Okay, so we use tener in more than one way. Okay, tener plus the word que plus infinitive is used to talk about what people have to do. Okay, so if you want to say that someone is obligated, that they have to perform an action, you have to use this formula. Okay, so we'll use the conjugations for the verb tener, then the word que, then an infinitive. So what's an infinitive? Well, it asks us on part D of the note guide to fill in the blanks according to the information in the video, and it wants us to write what an infinitive is. Okay, so it tells us on the slide here, an infinitive is a verb. Infinitives in Spanish end in AR, ER, or IR, and they mean to do something. So I would like for you to fill in the first part of part D, where it asks you what an infinitive is, and let's write that an infinitive is a verb that means to do something. Okay, so an infinitive is a verb that means to do something. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, the next one asks us, what do infinitives end in? Well, if you notice here, it tells us that infinitives end in AR, ER, or IR, and there are examples below. We'll go through those in just a minute, so make sure you fill in what infinitives end in on your note guide. Okay, it wants 3 examples of each. So 3 examples of AR infinitives would be hablar, montar, cantar. ER examples would be comer, beber, leer. And IR examples, escribir, vivir, asistir. Pause the video and fill in the last part of part D of your note guide. Okay, so remember to use the verb tener plus que plus an infinitive. Remember, an infinitive is a verb that means to do something, to talk about what people have to do. So using the correct form of tener when saying who has to do something. Okay, remember we know our conjugations. Yo tengo, tú tienes, usted, él, ella tiene. Nosotros tenemos, ustedes, ellos, ellas tienen. Look at these examples below. If I want to say I have to eat fruit and vegetables, I would say yo tengo que comer. Now I use tengo because I'm the one that has to do it. I must follow that with the word que. And comer means to eat. That's our infinitive. It's the action that has to be performed. Okay, the next one. If I want to say she has to use the computer in class, I would say ella tiene que usar la computadora en clase. She has to use the computer. Notice that tiene is the correct form of tener if I want to say she has. Que must follow to say that she has to do something. And finally, usar is the verb that means to use. The last sentence, los estudiantes tienen que estudiar el vocabulario, means the students have to study the vocab. Notice we've chosen tienen as our form of tener because los estudiantes is like saying they. So they have to study. Tienen que estudiar. Okay, practiquemos. Let's practice. Fill in the blanks with the correct form of tener. Notice that que is already given in the sentence, and we also need to include the infinitive. So let's do the first one together, then you'll pause the video, finish the rest, and we'll go through the answers together. All right, so the first one says tú. We know that the correct form of tener, when we see tú, is tienes. So tienes would go in the first blank. And then we know that to read is leer. So let's put tienes and leer in the 2 blanks, okay? Tú tienes que leer la novela means you have to read the novel. All right, pause the video now and fill in the rest. Okay, let's go through the answers. Número 2. I have to study for the test. Yo tengo que estudiar para el examen. Okay, tengo is the yo form of tener, and estudiar is to study. 3. Nosotros tenemos que contestar la pregunta. We have to answer the question. Tenemos is the correct form of tener for nosotros, and contestar is to answer. 4. Juanita tiene que hacer mucha tarea. Okay, tiene is correct because Juanita is like saying she or ella, and that's the correct form of tener when we say ella. And hacer is to do. Número 5. Las chicas tienen que sacar buenas notas. The girls have to get good grades. Okay, las chicas is like saying they or ellas, so we have to use the correct form of tener, which would be tienen. And to get is sacar. Número 6. Carlos has to attend classes. Carlos tiene que asistir las clases. Carlos is like saying he or él, and the correct form of tener for that is tiene, and asistir is to attend. Okay, write any questions you may have on your note guide and make sure you ask them as soon as class begins. There will be a 5-point mini quiz the next day at the very beginning of class. Please take the initiative to watch the video more than once in order to fully and completely understand the content covered in the video and or to clear up any confusion. At this time, make sure that you fill out part F of your note guide. Adios.